the heart of midnight. In the land of Althera, where night never fully fades, a cursed city of black stone towers loomed against the endless twilight. Here, under the shadow of the Moonless Throne, lived Elyse, an orphan, lost to the world after her family was swallowed by the cruel, eternal darkness that engulfed their kingdom. Her heart, cold and hollow, echoed only with the memory of that night, the night when the city turned its back on the sun forever. She worked as a servant in the forsaken palace of Lord Darius, the dark ruler who controlled the cursed city with an iron fist. His name alone sent shivers through the souls of the living, for his touch was said to turn flesh to ice, and his eyes glimmered with the hunger of the void. Yet the night she crossed paths with him, something in her soul shifted. It was an evening like no other. Elyse was sweeping the cold stone floors of the royal hall when a voice, like velvet and smoke, came from the shadows. "Why do you look so sad, little one?" She froze, the broom clattering to the floor. From the inky darkness of the far corner, Lord Darius emerged, his pale skin glowing in the half-light, his cloak sweeping behind him like a river of night itself. His eyes, those pale silver orbs, bore into her with a quiet intensity that threatened to swallow her whole. I have no reason to be happy, my lord," she stammered, her voice trembling under the weight of his gaze. Darius took a step closer, his presence like a storm about to break. He reached out, his hand cold as frost, and gently brushed a lock of her hair behind her ear. Elyse shivered but did not pull away. "Then why not join me?" he asked softly, his voice low and intoxicating. "Why not come with me, Elyse, where the sun never rises, but neither do the shadows touch?" Elyse's heart beat erratically in her chest. She knew the stories. Darius was the ruler of the Nightborn, a cursed being born of the void who could steal souls with a kiss and bend reality to his will. To be touched by him, to fall into his grasp, was to be lost forever. Yet his words, so tender, so dangerous, stirred something deep within her, a longing she couldn't quite understand. "I'm nothing more than a servant," she whispered. Her eyes lowered in submission, though her heart screamed to be seen. "A servant?" Darius's lips curled into a small, almost amused smile. "In my eyes, you are much more than that." The room fell silent as he stepped back, his gaze never leaving her face. For a long moment, Elyse stood frozen, the weight of his presence sinking deeper into her. "You wish to be free of this place, don't you?" Darius continued, his voice wrapping around her like a soft caress. "You wish for the curse to break, for the night to end." "I do," Elyse admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "The curse cannot be broken by mere mortals," Darius said, the shadow of something ancient flickering in his eyes. "But I can offer you a choice." He stepped closer once more, his presence commanding and yet strangely comforting. "Join me, Elyse. Give yourself to the night, to the darkness that dwells in my heart. I will give you power, will give you the freedom you crave. The city, the world, will bend to your will." Elyse swallowed hard, her pulse quickening as she looked into his eyes, into the abyss of his soul. "And what do you ask in return?" His smile deepened, a dark promise in his gaze. "Your heart, to be bound to me, to the night, forever." She hesitated. The weight of the decision hung over her like a storm cloud, and yet something in her yearned for the unknown. She was already lost in the darkness. Was it not fitting, then, to surrender to it completely? "I accept," Elyse whispered, her voice trembling. Darius's smile widened, and in that instant his cold fingers brushed against her lips. The air around them seemed to crackle with a powerful ancient force as the world bent to their union. Elyse's heart, once empty, now beat to the rhythm of the eternal night that surrounded them. She felt the cold power rush through her, filling her veins, her soul. The city, the land, everything shifted, as though the very fabric of reality had been altered. For a brief moment, Elyse felt weightless, caught between life and death, between light and shadow. When the world settled, Elyse looked up into Darius's eyes. Her heart was his now, bound forever to the ruler of the night. And yet she no longer felt empty. The darkness, once her prison, had become her home. Together they stood in the moonless kingdom, rulers of the endless night. And in the silence, a single truth echoed in Elyse's heart. The night was no longer her prison. It was her sanctuary. The end.